Hey guys, this is Erin Chase with one of the co-founders of Digital CoLab here with Andrea Deckard, one of my other co-founders, and Tony Anderson is not joining us tonight. She is currently flying somewhere at 40,000 feet between DC and LA. So in her place this evening, we've asked our trusted VA and longtime friend of all of us, Jen Klongpayabao, to join us and share her experience as working with us. Uh-oh, maybe that's not such a great idea. um, but just hearing, from her experience at being a VA, working for several different bloggers, working for us collectively with Digital CoLab over the years. And just, having her here tonight, I think is going to be really wonderful as we talk about the ins and outs of, what can a VA do for you? How do you work with them? How do you train them? All of these different things. So why don't we start with when did you know you needed a VA? Andrea and I can probably talk to that real quickly before we move into some of the other pieces. But Andrea, when did you know, oh my goodness, I need help now?
It was back when we were still hosting the Savvy Blogging events. It was the very first event. I hired someone probably a couple months before that because I was like in over my head with everything. I just couldn't keep up anymore, and so I actually had reached out to someone to do a guest post for my blog, and then we developed a really good friendship, and then from there I said, hey, would you be interested in like helping me on my blog? Obviously I'd pay you. She was a frugal blogger doing stuff then too for her site, and she ended up starting to work with me, and then she still works with me today. She's my person that's been with me the longest. So at that point, I just knew like I couldn't handle anything anymore. I thought I was probably going to have a mental breakdown if I didn't get somebody to help me with it, and I'm so thankful that I did at that point.
So I think it's that moment of knowing that you're either spread too thin, you have a new project that you want to start working on, something is taking your time and energy away. We talked a little bit about this. Was that last week we were talking about burnout? Like, is there something that's wearing on you that you could pass off, that you could then relieve some of the tension, your own productivity issues, or whatever it may be, that could help you with moving on? I think it was the same thing for me. It was having multiple projects, working on them. There were just things that I think for me, I probably could have started with you, Jen, a little bit earlier had I not been such a control freak. I think a lot of people have trouble giving up the control of what they're posting on their site because it's their site. But you kind of have to come to this point in realization that I can't do all of this anymore. And people ask me that all the time, how do you do everything? I'm like, I have Jen. But for me, it had to be, I had to let go of the control of, I didn't have to post the coupon post. I didn't have to be doing the weekly meal plan post every single week. Being able to pass off some of those tasks and things that happen every week that are almost repetitive or I do have some attention on those things, and Jen and I communicate about those throughout the week, but I don't have to do them, and that way my time is freed up for photography, editing, recipe development, other projects, whatever it may be. So I think you just sort of come to this point where, okay, your site's making a little bit of money. Could you make more money if you delegated something so you could focus on creating a product or whatever it may be? So it could be that you need to take a little of, almost like an investment in your business in, bringing on a virtual assistant. So talking now about how do you find a VA? Can I pass that one over to you, Jen? What has your experience been? I know that you're pretty well into that community, and when someone says I need to find a VA, what would you recommend that they do?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's kind of a hard question, but I think first you have to look at what kind of VA you're looking for, why you're going to hire one. There's lots of VA services that are on the internet that you can go to find people. I know Chris Ducker has one. He's coming to speak at Digi this year. His is virtualstafffinder.com. And then there's also different ones like, let's see, I'm trying to think. Oh, there's like Odesk. They have it. And then there's some Facebook groups with VAs too, like VAs for Hire on Facebook. We can drop those links in later. But I think one of the best ways, honestly, is to ask other bloggers. Erin and I were just talking today about how, most bloggers can't afford to hire somebody full-time, 40 hours a week. And so it may very well be that you have a friend that uses a VA, that you could also, grab a couple of their hours, the VA's hours, and do it that way. Referrals, I think, are the #1 way, because I think that's one of the biggest things people have a problem with or hesitant about hiring somebody is just that trust factor, that unknown, how's this going to work and that kind of thing. So I know a lot of bloggers have VAs. And so I'd say that would be the #1 place I would go to is ask, those of you that have a VA, are they looking for more hours that I could use them for 2 hours a week or, that kind of thing. But also, I think, some people don't necessarily want to use somebody they know, like a friend or a family member. But I know a friend of mine, hired a mom on her son's baseball team that needed a job and is doing fantastic. So I think sometimes you kind of have to look, outside of the box a little bit. Maybe somebody that you wouldn't have thought would know anything about it or would do a good job. Because I don't think it's so much knowing that they're already a blogger, because you can teach that, just like we all learned how to be a blogger. But more, looking for people that are, well, I guess that's getting into more what you're looking for the VA, but so I'll wait on that.
Yeah, I think you need to hire the behavior and you can train the skill. And that's, my best advice, just being in HR. Like, I've seen people that they might be doing the exact skill that you want them to do, but they don't have the work ethic you want. They don't have the behaviors that you want. For me personally, like, I have only hired people from referrals, and I would only hire people from referrals, personal referrals, and it's not me going into a group saying, hey, does anybody have a VA that they, that they need some extra hours? I'd actually personally reach out to people individually to say, hey, do you have somebody that I could work with or whatever? Just because it's a major trust factor for me. These people are in my site doing, working in my business every day, and I'm not just going to let anybody up in my world, because there's things in there, not that I have all of these secrets or whatever, but it's personal stuff. They don't need to be seeing all that stuff. So I want to make sure that somebody's very trustworthy and somebody can, if they have the experience doing admin work or whatever, that's great. I actually want to see that. Like, I want to know that people have done that stuff before. I don't want somebody that's come in like, I don't understand how to do a Word document. Well, we're going to have a long way to go here. So, so I would say definitely first focus on the behavior, and then you can train that skill. And it will take some time to train them. So I know a lot of people have had training manuals that they've used if they think that they might have some turnover, or even growth where you think that somebody might grow beyond what you need them to do, and they can actually take on more tasks so you can then do other things for your business. So you got to think about those types of things for kind of scaling and growing your own business too, and growing the people and developing the people that work with you.
I think that kind of leads right into the next, what can a VA do for you? When do you find one? That kind of leads into, well, what next? What do you do when you do find someone who's interested? You do think it's a good fit. You've talked to them. You've maybe done a formal interview, informal interview. You met them at a coffee shop or whatever it may be. And you think that, they do have the right behavior. You think you can train them in the skills. So what do you do next? So you need to bring them on formally, legally. There are several different ways to do that. We are not lawyers, but we can share that we've recommend bringing them on as independent contractors. If you want to do the whole employee thing, that's a whole nother ball game. I think most people, the independent contractor relationship works really well as long as you have the really clear, schedule of what they're to be doing for you. And so, once you do that, then you need to move into the training. And I think that this is something I was thinking about a few minutes ago with training, and one of the gals that I do coaching with is doing a phenomenal job with her training. She is pretty much passing one of her sites off almost entirely. to her VA, and she is doing a very good job of slowly. She's not in a rush to get this done. I think the training process is going to end up being about 3 months, start to finish. But she's doing it so that she doesn't have to worry later. She's creating videos, screencasts of how to do all these different things, you know, to her expectations, so that when she doesn't have to be micromanaging down the road, she doesn't have to be constantly checking, what are they doing? Are they doing this the way I wanted them to do? So, you know, I've heard in the past people say, oh, my VA's not doing what I want them to do. Well, did you train them well? Did you give them a very, very specific list or video or screencast or whatever it may be for what you expect them to produce for you? So that would be kind of my challenge, I guess, and encouragement is, you know, once you have, you know, this great, you know, chemistry and kind of working relationship that you get going with, is to make sure that you're training them in such a way that they understand. Maybe it's writing out goals, maybe it's putting numbers down, you know, whatever it may be, that they can actually be helping you, investing in your business, so that you don't have to spend your newfound time that you're going to focus on other projects kind of backtracking and micromanaging them, if that makes sense. That's not the reason that we have somebody coming on to assist us, right? So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, that, you know, however you do, whether it's a training manual, as Andrea said, or videos or screencasts, do the training well. Go through a several-week process where, you know, you're watching what they're doing, you're doing it together, then you pass it off to them, you check it a couple of times, let it go, and then randomly check in, so that you're not having to, you know, worry or wonder or constantly be thinking, are they doing, you know, what I've tasked them to do? So do you have any other thoughts on the training piece to that, Andrea?
One thing I was going to add is something that that I've done is, I know a lot of us use that Vincent Pratt or whatever it is, the post templates plugin. So with my team, if I was creating a new type of post that we were going to publish on a regular basis, I would actually put a checklist in that post template. And so I would say, change the category to X, fill out the meta tag information, make sure this is filled out. I would have several steps, and then eventually they, you know, got through that, but it was one of those things that was part of the template, and then the actual content of the template was below those steps, but they knew that those are the 5 things that they had to check in with to make sure that those were done on that post before it could go publish. So I've never really been one to allow anybody, even though I'm kind of like in the deals section, I've never really been one to want my people to post drafts and then I go approve it, because I feel like that defeats the purpose for me. So I've just kind of let them go to town and kind of do what they feel like, using a lot of their own personal opinions on what would be good and bad. But there's just also a lot of stuff that's process oriented that we would know that we have to get done, and those post templates helped a lot.
So Jen, I want to toss this one over to you. You've worked with several different, you do work with several different people, us on our team, and what do you find helpful in training, you know, when, yeah, what do you, from a VA perspective, what do you find to be the most helpful when, you know, learning about a new system or post or process or whatever it might be?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I never had official training. I learned it all myself. But I know, right? No, but I know, like, I trained my sister-in-law, and we did it in person. And I totally should have done videos. I was not thinking about it. She sat by me, so we did it just together, going through it, and then her practicing, kind of like you do with kids, what you're teaching them. But I definitely think videos are fantastic. I mean, I use videos a lot when I'm trying to learn a plugin or that kind of thing, those that have documentation like that, or even written documentation, as long as it's not like just a bunch of verbiage. I mean, as long as it's like bullet pointed and has images, you know, that show exactly what part you're talking about and that kind of thing, I think are awesome. I've seen some people that have really good training stuff that they've created for their VAs. And honestly, one thing about it, I know a lot of people feel like it takes so much effort and time to initially create those trainings, but that stuff will last forever. It doesn't change. Some of that stuff, like how to do a post or how your site works, or, you know, just that kind of thing, then you'll always have it and you don't have to recreate it again. If you already have a VA or you have someone that is already established, you can have them make training videos. You know, I mean, you can hire somebody to do it that way. You know, somebody who knows. There's lots of bloggers that have kind of turned VA, you know, that aren't making the money blogging or that kind of thing, and so they're using VA services. They'd be a perfect person to use to do the basics. But there's also tons of YouTube videos already out there that anybody can access, and so you could find a collection of those to give to people as well. But I definitely think stuff in writing or videos, and if you're doing a video, you do a short segment so people, you know, that's very carefully titled, so they could quickly go to one that they need to see to refresh how to do something. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'd say. And I would say, too, like, not just official training like videos and written documentation, but I think you should have a Facebook group, like a private, secret Facebook group with you and your VAs, or it could be a Skype room or something like that that you can check in with your people. I think that helps too, like not constant communication, that sounds overwhelming, but an easy way for them to come to you to say, I have a question. Because I'd way rather have somebody come ask me, like, I don't understand, than try to spend an hour trying to figure it out, and then that's time you guys are paying for.
Yeah, I agree. I love the Google Chat for that. The Google Chat, I'm like my mom. Google Chat.
Okay, quick. I want to answer or talk for a minute about Lauren's question. So, what if you've trained and still don't see, and your VA doesn't seem to be growing with you and growing with your business? Okay, let's talk about this for a second, because I think that this is definitely something worth chatting about. So Jen is a wonderful VA. She always comes to me and is like, hey, we should do this. Hey, we should do that. Hey, let's do this. Hey, I'm analyzing this. We need to try this, which is amazing. I don't ask her to do that. She just does it, which is phenomenal to me. She'll come and say, we need to change this up, or let's try to switch around the coupon posts with the recipes. I'm going to do the recipes first, and then let's do the coupons kind of secondary, and guess what? It converts better, right? So she is very invested in the business, and I think that, you know, I think, one, that's hard to find. You know, yeah, it's hard to find. I can't say that that's anything that I've done. I don't think that it is. I think that that's part a chemistry thing. I think it's part and a chemistry I just mean a good, strong relationship. Jen will also come to me and say, this is all sorts of wrong and backwards. We need to fix it. Go, okay, bad call on my part. Let's fix it, right? And I think, too, I do think there is a little bit of leadership. I don't micromanage it all. You know, she is invested and gets to run with it. I think that it could just be you have to keep trying. I know there are many people who it takes time and several people to find that right fit. I think there are also things you can do to motivate them, whether it's a percentage of affiliate cut, a commission sort of relationship. If they're selling private ads, give them a commission. You know, it depends on what they're doing, but I think there are things that you can do to kind of incentivize and motivate that way. But I think it's just, you know, it's part chemistry, and I think too, maybe it is part leadership, and just, you know, how you're training them, how you're motivating them, what does that mean in your particular relationship. And it's hard to answer that because I don't know. Lauren, you're amazing and wonderful, and maybe you haven't found the right, you know, person or behavior, as Andrea, you know, has talked about earlier. I don't know, Andrea, do you have any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was going to say it goes right back to the behavior. So, and the other thing is that, you know, making sure they understand they have permission to do it. So, you know, sometimes I think people feel like, well, you hired me to do this, I'm going to just do this. So with my team, I've always told them, like, if you see something done that could be done a better way, more efficient, whatever, I want this result, so however we get there, I really don't care. And they know what the goals are. And to be very honest, that's why my local sites never took off, because I didn't have the right people that were able to go out there, take the initiative, make those connections, and make things happen for those local sites. And I didn't have a lot of time to invest even more into them, so they just never took off. So it's one of those things where you know, when I had turnover, I just decided to not even replace that stuff because it wasn't worth my time anymore for those people. So making sure that when you are looking at hiring a VA, you know, I think when I first hired the person that works with me, it was more out of desperation. But now, if I'm going to hire somebody else again to actually be a part of my team, I am doing something very different. I'm making sure that they have all of the things that I need. They have the right behaviors. They take initiative. You know, they're proactive. They have the leadership skills. And quite honestly, that's why we love Jen so much, because she has no problem coming to us and saying, you guys, this is dumb. I don't like this idea. Or if we say, this is what we like, can you make it happen? And she goes and makes it happen. And that's what you really need in someone, and making sure you have the right person that can do that. You know, you can get some of those questions out of an interview process or a referral if you're talking to someone about it or about
but
them.
I do think that, like, somebody like me, I mean, that came with time. You know, I didn't start, well, I mean, I didn't start at the beginning doing everything I do. I mean, not at all. I worked like 30 minutes a week or something like that. I mean, it was very small, and it gradually, you know, when you click with somebody, they can become your, you know, basically your assistant almost, you know, a general VA, or, you know, sometimes it's called that. But I think, too, it's okay to say it doesn't work. I mean, that happens in the real world, too. If you just don't click with somebody, or they're not responding, or they're not, I'm not sure what Lauren means when she says if they're not growing with your business, but, you know, if they're not responding quick enough, or their stuff's just not up to par, and you keep reminding them or showing them whatever training you have on how you want something, I think it's okay to say, this really isn't, you know, it's not worth it to suck the life out of you to try to make it work. So I definitely think communication is key, and training is key on that. But I also think it's okay to let yourself say, you know, this just isn't going to work, you know, that kind of thing. Or it could be that what you have them doing is just not perfect for them. And there's
right.
What?
I was going to say, I said that's right. You just have to find what works for them.
Yeah, and it could be something you really, really like, or you do get along with, and it could be just the one thing you have them doing isn't perfect for them. I think that I know Chris's book, Chris Ducker's book, talks about this, about people have this idea that they want to hire one main person that's going to be able to do it all. And I really think the people that I talked to last year when I was interviewing some bloggers who successfully used VAs for the class I did last year when I was teaching about it, a lot of them, they've hired somebody to do one thing, and that's it. And it may grow from there, but it's not like I'm going to hire this VA and they're going to do these 29 things. If they hired somebody to specifically do code reveals, or specifically reformat recipes, or specifically answer emails that are those, like, kind of just responding, you know, the same kind of questions you get all the time. You could do like a form template email kind of thing, or, you know, anyway, I think sometimes, too, starting smaller helps. And it can also let you know where they're gifted at, to be able to put them in an excellent place for your business, to help your business grow.
And that's actually a really good point. Like, the way I've hired my team is that they all specialize, and they can cross over and back one another up, and they can be generalists at time where they do a little bit of everything, but I feel like it's less risk when you have somebody that specializes in one thing. That way, if they're doing that one thing, you don't have to hire somebody to replace everything. So if I lose somebody, I'm only replacing these 10 hours. I'm not replacing these 40 hours all at once and putting the burden on me. So I definitely would encourage people to consider the specialization, and then making sure that they have the skill set where they can be more generalists. Maybe that is like a pay increase or a promotion that you give them down the road, that, hey, you're doing this, but now I need you to kind of take over this and do more of my editorial calendar. And that actually goes back to Marissa's question. For those who aren't deal bloggers, what are some of the things that you have your VAs do? She wants to make sure she has everything covered. You know, even though I am considered like a deal or a coupon blogger, I write, we actually have a lot of content that goes up. And right now I'm editing a lot of that myself, but I did have somebody else doing that for me for a period of time. And that was something that it was literally like, here's how I want it formatted. Look at this, make it like this. That's all you need to do. And then actually something else, like Jen was even helping me out for a while, taking some of my old posts, putting them into a doc so I could eventually put them into an ebook. So there's tons of stuff. If you just make a list of what you need them to do, write it all down in a spreadsheet or whatever. That way when you have that conversation with people, making sure that they're comfortable doing that stuff and they enjoy it. The last point I wanted to make was, talking about the things that they're good at. A really good book that I've talked about a lot before is First Break All the Rules by Marcus Buckingham. And I love that book, and I read that back when I was working in corporate, because it really talks about finding the right people to do the jobs, finding what they really do well. And if you want an engineer to go out and do sales for you, you are going to fail miserably, because engineers are not typically very social people. So you can't have a VA that loves to be out and loves the water cooler talk and loves to be socializing with everyone, that is sitting behind the computer and just typing in, data entry all day. Let them run some of your social channels. If they do a really good job, give them something where they can be social, they can talk to people and have that connection somewhat. So finding out what they can do the best, and then making sure you're encouraging that. And if you find that you hire them to do one thing, don't just say, oh, I'm going to chalk it up, it's a waste of a resource. You put something in to train them, see what else they can do for your business. And we've had that even working on client projects. It just wasn't a fit here, but we don't want to lose that, because they actually could be a really good fit in something else. So let's just try to reposition where they're going to go in the organization. And even though we're very small businesses here, it's the same kind of mentality we have to think about.
Right. I think, a couple of key things kind of to wrap this up, and if anybody has any questions, to drop them in. We're pushing 8:30 here. Central Time, 9:30 Eastern, is communication and expectation. Like any working relationship, it's the same thing. Let's say marriage or family, brothers, siblings, wherever your stage in life. Like, you have to kind of work at it. You have to communicate well. You have to talk about your expectations. And I think that I'm looking at the comments in here, and I saw Mindy say something about hiring your friend as your VA, then you feel like you can't fire them. Well, I think you can still have a friendship and a working relationship if you're just very open and you communicate a lot, and you set the clear expectations and goals, and you meet weekly, monthly, quarterly about different pieces and parts of the business and of the tasks and what is happening. One of the things that I talked with this last week with one of my coaching clients is doing a daily scrum as she's passing off more of the action items for the site that she's passing over. Instead of a weekly call and going back and forth over email 85 times a day, why don't you just quickly check in at the very beginning of the morning, 15 minutes, here's what I need you to do, this is what came out this morning, I need you to do this, this, that, and then you can go on. So it's clearly laid out there, so that they know what's happening, you know what's happening, and there's no confusion, miscommunication, all of those things that just happen in a relationship, whether it's working or personal, or both in some situations. I think it's just the kind of those relationship sort of rules, whatever those are for you, apply. So just be kind of aware and thinking about that when it comes to those different things in working and together closely on your baby, right, and your project, and getting them to invest in that and whatnot. So are there any other questions before we wrap this? I'm going to look on the page one more time. I don't see any. Do you guys have any sort of parting thoughts or things we didn't catch in the last half hour?
The one thing I guess I would want to add is that I actually have had conversations with people this week, and I'm like, why don't you have a VA? You have a lot going on. And they're like, I don't really know what to give them. And I would encourage everyone that's listening to this, find at least 5 tasks that you're doing today that you could hand off to somebody. I'm not saying you go out there and hire a VA. You might not even be in the right place to hire someone right now. But what are 5 tasks that you could give someone else that would free up your time so you can focus more on your business? Or honestly, I'm focusing more on my family right now. So it's not so much as my business. I'm working with other clients, but if I have free time, I'm focusing it on my family too. So think about what those 5 tasks are. And I know there are there are people that that have reached out in the laboratory group that have said that they are seeking VA positions. I know Bridget is one of them that recently said that, and find somebody that you could even have a trial with to see, like, will this work, and making sure that they'd be interested in what you're doing too.
I would say, I mean, I don't know that I necessarily have anything to add. I mean, other than, you're always welcome to hit me up and ask me questions, because I'm more than happy. I can't work for you, but I'm more than happy to, talk you through, what may be working or not, or if you want to show me the training you have, I'm happy to look at it from a VA perspective and see if it makes sense or that kind of thing. Because, I know that the ladies that I work for are able to do so much because they have VAs, not just me. They have several people that do stuff for them. And so I just know that their life is a lot easier. Well, whether it's easier or not, but it definitely allows them to do more things, and that's why they're as busy as they are, because they can.
Cool. Well, with that, we will wrap it up. Andrea, you want to share a little bit about the event we have coming up?
Yeah, so the Digital CoLab event is coming up in June. I can't believe it's coming up that fast. And if you haven't got your ticket yet, I would highly encourage you to get your ticket now. We have like 20 tickets left, and we'd obviously love to have it sell out. So you can use the code DigiRocks to save $25 on the registration. Just go to digitalcolab.com. And we are going to have Chris Ducker doing an event, or doing an elective on working with VAs. And of course, we're all going to be doing labs as well. We're still figuring out what the Digi team are going to be doing their labs about. So if you have recommendations or suggestions, then let us know. We have a few ideas, but let us know if you have other topics, if you're going to be coming, that we could talk about, even in between lunch or whatever. We can talk about stuff like that too. So I'll drop that code in the event room there in the Hangout, and you can comment if you have any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to the lovely and talented Jen for joining us this evening and sharing her knowledge and experience and wisdom in working with us over the years. Much appreciated. Of course, Andrea and Tony is probably waving from 40,000 feet, wherever she may be. And with that, we will say good night, and we will catch you same time, same place, new link, talking about something cool. I think we've decided yet, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. So we will share that with you on Facebook and email this week, and we will see you guys next week. Good night.